me and Tom headed out a few days ago fishing. The tide was up at about 10 PM, so it was a night session. We bought a new lighting setup and everything to show you, but that session didn't quite go to plan. We got 2 fish. We got one tiny pin whiting and one strap conger. We didn't even get up over the rocks. It fell off in the rocks and it was just too slippery to pick up. So, but we made a little video, so we're going to show you that, and then at the end of the video we're going to do a little rig tie-in session as well to show you the 2 rigs that we used in that session, and it's also 2 rigs that they're great all-round rigs that you can use pretty much every day, everywhere. So enjoy this little section of the video. Sorry there's not many fish in it, but stick around for the rig tie-in at the end. As you can see, we've invested in some night lighting, so hopefully the video is going to be a bit better tonight, because this is a pure night session today. The tide's up around 10 o'clock, it's just gone 8 o'clock now. We've got 4 baits in the water at the moment. We got both fishing the same rigs. We both got one dropper rig with a practically full squid on it, banded on. And then we're both also using cascade rigs as well. And if you're not sure what a cascade rig is,
basically a 2-hook flapper.
It's like a 2-hook flapper, but it's a clip down. You use a spring to keep the tension. We'll do a little video to show you how we tie these rigs. But on there we've got just ragworm and a little bit of squid, just tipped on the ends to keep the ragworm on there. And tonight we're hoping for a bit of a mixed bag, and we're really hoping for some cod.
Yep. Open for the first early run of the cod.
It was starting to look like a pretty bleak night.
It's still feeling like
this is all we got. If you look careful, there's actually a worm. Can you see the worm inside there? You turn it the other way. Oh, I can't see it. Anyway,
yeah, I can see.
Little tiny whiting. Hey!
Yeah, buzzing. Beats the blank.
So the first rig we're going to show you is the cascade rig. This is a rig that looks fancy and quite complicated because it's got springs and beads, but it's not complicated at all really.
It's basically just a 2-hook clip down.
Yeah, so you can clip both of your hooks down so you can get maximum distance with your cast, because if you just got like a 2-hook flapper or you got boom rigs or something like that, when you're casting it out it just catches in the wind and it spins and you just can't get that distance. And some marks especially, distance is key. Not everywhere, but sometimes it is. So Tom's going to show us how to make the cascade rig. No,
There's no bloody line on it.
not really that in.
Right, so basically to start we just need some 60-pound shock leader, or rig building material, like, so to speak. Grease weasel is my favourite. However, we're using the ASSO Ultra Flex because you get 60 more meters for the same price.
It's important to use shock leader, and general rule of thumb is 1 ounce.
£10 per 1 ounce
Per
of
1
lead
ounce
that
of
you're
lead.
casting with.
But really, it doesn't really even matter. You can even go stronger if you want. Like, we often use much heavier than 60. It doesn't really matter. It's just for safety, really. Just so when you are hitting your cast out as hard as you can, it's not going to snap under the weight of your weight.
And crack your fishing compadre in the skull.
Yeah.
Right, so anyway, 60-pound line. I use one of these ticked Gemini clips, like with a little leg clip on it. a little bait clip, so to speak. So I do a 3-turn grinner. So I go 1, 2, 3, through the rabbit hole, and then back through for another 3 times.
Bit of lubrication.
Little bit of spit, but no slap.
Yeah, it's important to, as you pull a grinner down, to pull a tag end as it goes down, otherwise it just won't
Yeah, the point
sit nicely.
the point of using the grinner is basically, you know, 1, I believe it's got less chance of slipping, and 2, I just think it looks tidy with the tag end coming back out the top of the knot. Especially useful when using on hooks for holding worm baits on.
One thing we haven't got is a pair of scissors on.
So we haven't got our scissors to hand at the moment, so I'm going to use the second best thing, which is my my Vampiro teeth.
Oh, it's the thing in there.
Anyway, £60 line, look, supposed to be abrasive resistant. That was easy.
Could just use these if you want.
Yeah.
To clip it down.
Obviously these rigs, you know, could be anything from like you know, half a metre right up to, you know, a metre if you want them to be like. I think we're gonna go roughly 1 metre, see, roughly 1 metre. I'm not gonna measure it. So I always start at the bottom of the rig, right? So that's like a bait clip, lead clip, cross thingy. Doesn't matter what it's called, just what you use them for. And I follow that up by getting out a load of crimps and picking my favourite ones. You know how it is, you always use your favourite ones that stand out. So on goes 1 copper crimp. Obviously you make sure you buy the copper crimps to suit your
Diameter line.
yeah, your diameter of the line or breaking strain, whatever. So basically I just slide it on all the way down to the bottom, and then I follow it up with every other component that I need to make the rig out of before actually crimping any of the crimps in place. So it's one crimp followed by 1 little bead. You know, I'm using these little beads because obviously the bigger beads, the springs which you're about to see me use, obviously sit down inside the hole, so these ones are perfect. Like, so on goes the bead. So that's now a crimp and a bead.
I might put it in a description all different components just so it's an easy breakdown for you to follow.
Yeah, that would be an excellent idea. Then we put what's called an SRT spring. These are also Gemini. I believe they're the best to use. Not that I'm pushing the Gemini kit because I'm not that famous.
Unless you do want to sponsor us.
Gemini, quality. I've had them for 10 years. Anyway, another little bead then. So that's 1 bead now either side of the SRT spring. Now we need one of these little swivel things, which has got, like, if you look carefully you can see like a little lead clip on it again, like a bait clip again. Like, you see what that's for now later on when I finally stop boring you and get to it. So obviously make sure you slide it all on the right way. So that slides downwards then towards that bead.
So you want this it facing down towards your lead, so it all sits down nicely then, because there is actually a kink on the top. You can just see there, so it all goes down the right direction.
You want everything pointing downwards. Look, where you started from the lead, and then you move working out. Everything should be pointing down, clip wise anyway. Another bead now. I know what you're thinking, this is looking like an expensive rig to build. Well, just don't lose them.
And the good thing about them is that if you've got the rig body built, when you're changing your snoods, your rig stays good as new, basically.
Yeah,
you just clip your snoods off because you want to change your hooks, especially if you're as anal as Tom is, and every time he catches a fish he wants a new hook just in case it's not as sharp as it was.
Right, that's another crimp going on now. If I can could have done with the scissors, look man, to cut them clean.
Yeah, the tags up there.
It's alright man, don't worry about it, it's just the one. There we
Got
go.
the crimp myself down there.
Yeah, so anyway, that's basically the bottom half of the rig done, right? So I'm gonna carry on now to do the top, and then we're gonna crimp it all down into place. Beauty. So anyway, basically that's every component all on there, right? So it's all slid down to the bottom at the moment.
So give it a breakdown. So you got crimp,
So crimp, bead, spring, bead, swivel and bait clip, bead, crimp, bead, spring, bead, little swivel, bead, crimp. Yeah. Right, and then to top all that off, depending on whether you've got a clip tied onto your shock leader or a swivel tied on. You know, I tie a swivel onto my shock leader, so I put a rig clip on the top which connects it to my rod, so to speak. That's another 3-turn grinner then. I crimp this one down at the top closest to where I attach it to my main line, and then we trap all of that at the top, crush that beauty down. And that's the top part of the rig. Then I take the next lot roughly halfway up the rig, and I lock that bad boy in place, tightening down. You haven't got to have somebody to hold the line for you, but it does help.
You don't need 2 people to make this rig.
3's better. Anyway, so that's basically what it looks like.
Yeah.
Right. Ash. I guess I should have some £20, £25 Oblivion in there, like, you know. That's it, you've got it in your hand there, that's the one.
Yeah, so depending on what you're after, if you're only after, say you're after the flounder, you're after the place, you can use thinner diameter snood, or you know, you could have whatever size hooks you want on there, to be honest.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
I mean, if you're out after the carp, you've got 2 hooks right there on 4 O's, it works exactly the same, but you're probably going to want stronger snood, that's all.
Yeah, you just bulk things up a bit, then you like, you know, bigger hooks, slightly heavier line or whatever. Really, like, you know, if there's ever a chance of congers or anything like that, you have heavy anyway. It's 3-turn grinner again. Anyway, hold the rig up now. You know, you can see the spring isn't compressed at the moment, right? So
well, I probably can't from it actually. No,
you probably can't from it. Right, I'll bring it down. Right, the spring's nice and loose. Anyway, I measured it up down to the clip, not the lead, because you won't always have a lead that's got a bait clip. So measure it down to your clip at the bottom. Right, and obviously clip the line there if you don't mind, please, Squire. Right, what size hooks would you like to use?
We'll just put 2's on these.
2's or 2 O's or what?
2 O's, sorry. Yeah.
I use 2 O's because he's going fishing tomorrow without me because he wasn't willing to come tonight. And I gotta go to work tomorrow, so.
Naughty ties. And with 2's, it's a great all-round hook size, I think. Big enough and strong enough to hold on to any cod or even a big conger, but small enough that you'll still pick up sole on there easy.
Hold that. I only put a sequin on there, you know, not for any sort of attractant. I mean, you could use it for attracting fish and clear the water, but the only reason we're using them is as a bait stop to stop your worm running back up the line when you cast, because we're not using pennels. Pennels for all you Welsh boys. 2-0. As Owen said, good all round duck. Basically with a set of size 2-0s, yeah, and a big worm on there, like, you know, you've got that there then to hold the worm on. Press the worm on, maybe tip it off with a little squid flag just to stop it from coming off at this end. Another tip is I always thread my ragworms on backwards, so I thread it in through the tail and eventually come out through the head, because the ragworm's teeth help to stop the worm coming back over the barb as well. Like, so that's a handy little tip for you as well. So imagine this was baited up. This goes onto your big clip slash leg clip, and as you can see, it's pre-tensioned by the spring, you know, so basically that hook isn't not coming off that clip until it hits the water. And then that little clip we showed you earlier on your top hook, you know, compress the spring slightly here, pull him down, and into that clip it goes.
There you go.
If you look at that, you know, that is an absolute stunner of a rig. Streamlined.
Alright, Tom's gone to make himself a cup of tea, and me, I hope. He's been out on the boat all day fishing today, out of Penarth. The Ice Maiden, little shout out there, one of Tom's mates. So, the rig I'm going to show you how to make is the dropper rig. Another simple rig. This one is your typical big fish rig. You know, your 4-row panels on there, big squid baits for the cod, any number of big baits, and if you fish in the channel, you'll have a bit of bait elastic too to hold everything in place. So you start the same way you always start, at the end of your rig. You're going to use one of these tick Geminis. Like Tom said in his video, this is so you can clip down your rig at the end. I'm just going to do your basic 4-turn water knot. I am 2, 3, 4. Push it straight back through. Everybody knows how to do this knot. Bit of spit. Tighten them down. There we go. Always handy to have a lead, just to make pulling it down a little bit easier. Just pull it nice and tight. Because if it's gonna slip, you want it to slip now, not when you've got a fish your lifetime on the end of it. Okay, so there's that. Nice and simple. Pulled it down. Snip that off. Decide what sort of length rig you want to use. Again, you can have this about 1 metre long. Clip that off. Again, this is £60 shock leader to take the weight of your 6-ounce lead. We fish in the channel and the tides are pretty strong, so we tend to use 6-ounce leads just to keep everything stuck down on the bottom. So once you've had that on, slide on your black bead, small black bead, well, any colour bead, but I always like to use small beads. The smaller the better, really. We want everything to be as aerodynamic as possible when it's flying through the air. Then we use one of these. So essentially it's the same as this, only it's got this tick on the top, this bend. That will make sure that everything sits down nicely on your rig as well, so it'll all face the correct way when it's all clipped up. And also, when that hits the water, it'll sit down tidy. You'll keep it pinned onto the seabed where all the fish are rummaging around looking for lovely baits for the hooks. Follow that up with another black bead. Slide that down. Followed by Tom's looking at me and already taking him to get in my rig. By a swiveling link together. Slide that on. Slide him down. Another black bead. The beads just basically act as little shock absorbers to stop everything hitting together, and it stops swivels sliding over knots and stuff like that. So basically that's everything you need for the rig, apart from just a £20 swivel. Doesn't really matter, it could go a bit bigger just in case actually. And this one you fix to the top, and I'll show you what happens with that tick clip. Will go up and it'll go through that swivel, and it'll act as like a bit of a pulley, and it'll pull that down to your hook then. So put that through a bit of spit, pull it through, lovely jubbly. pull it down. Trusty weight, make sure everything's pulled tight. Lovely jubbly. Clip that off. Okay, and that's the rig body made, so I'll just go through that again, just so you can see it a bit easier. Gemini link at the bottom with a bait clip. Then you got this bent Gemini clip here with beads in between, and then you got this swiveling clip to connect this to your main line, running up to your swivel at the top. So I'm going to be using 40 pound to make my snood length. Again, start at the end, swivel, tie him on, use the weight. Cheers, brother. There he is. Cup of tea.
We don't do small cups of tea in this household. You either go big or you go home.
Same as fishing.
Yeah, well, it is for me.
No, apart from this last episode. Slide that off, and I'm going to use 4 rows, and I'm going to make 2 hooks for your panels. Pop this open if I can get it on. It was T6's birthday a few days ago, so we're just going to tuck into a bit of birthday cake.
Well, thank you for the birthday wishes.
Okay, there you go. 2 nice sharp 4 rows.
If they're not sharp, throw them away. Do yourself a favour. You know what I'm saying? It's the only thing that's actually doing anything for you.
Yeah, if you haven't got a sharp hook on the end, there's no point fishing.
Is your bait and your hook.
You don't have to be too particular with the length of your snoozer, as long as it's not longer than your rig body. Because when it pulls through, I'll show you that when it's finished at the end. So you just slide your one hook up loosely. You can actually,
like a pulley rig, isn't it? Like?
yeah, it's like a pulley rig, but you can actually get special pennel hooks, but it don't matter really. It is extra money. It can make it a little bit tighter, I suppose, sometimes. Clip that off. Tom's here. You're gonna pick my rig to pieces now.
You haven't done a grain or not?
No, I haven't done a good. I told him I don't do grain or not. Here you go, classic snood. So you clip that onto this clip here where you're bending it. Slide him on there, if you can. Lovely jubbly. Pop your weight on the bottom. Clip it there. Once it's all pulled together, anyway, it'll work fine. Clip on, yeah. Bait clip, bait step. And there we go. As if by magic, it's the correct length anyway. So there we are, there's all the components there. There is where it's tucked in, look, that's where it's linked on. Going all the way along. Down to your leg clip and there's your panels there. So when that hits the water then, as the pressure of the water, it'll push that up, that'll then clip, and that'll all sit down lovely then. Just like that.
T60's favourite rig.
Right, that was a bit of a mess, but I think you got the picture. So yeah, these are the 2 rigs that we tend to use.
Yeah, you can take them anywhere, yeah, basically.
So if we go and we fish in 2 rods, we generally fish 1 rod with the smaller hooks, worm baits.
To see what's about.
To see what's about. Pick up, you know, see if you pin white in there, whatever. And then we'll have our big rigs out as well. Trying to pick up the cod, the bass, the conger, the rays, anything that's about. We're lucky here in the Bristol Channel, we get all
that's
sorts.
about it, like.
Yeah, but we do get, we got good fishing where we are. So, hope you enjoyed it. It's a bit long-winded.
But we'll cut that all down in the edit.
But yeah, we'll make it make more sense in the edit. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Cheers.